March 1945. The German Ninth Army trains its artillery on 40,000 American soldiers. Every single one of them is fake, made of rubber and air. A field near the Rhine River, Western Germany. One man kneels in mud, brushing dark oil stains beneath a Sherman tank. Another tilts a rubber gun barrel, adjusting its shadow to match the angle of the morning sun. A third drapes camouflage netting over an artillery piece, not to conceal it, to ensure German reconnaissance pilots can barely make it out from altitude. Everything here looks like a military camp staging a river crossing. That is the entire point. The tanks are inflatable. The cannons are hollow. The engine noise bleeds from speakers hidden in the tree line. The tens of thousands of American troops that German intelligence believes it has located in this sector, they do not exist. 1,100 men occupy this ground. Not infantrymen. Artists, illustrators, sound engineers. Pulled not from boot camps but from Pratt Institute, Cooper Union, the Rhode Island School of Design. Among them, a future fashion icon, a future star of the Museum of Modern Art, and a 20-year-old illustrator who will one day paint for National Geographic, currently pressing fake tank treads into European dirt with a wooden roller on his hands and knees. This is the 23rd Headquarters Special Troops, the Ghost Army, the most classified deception unit the United States military has ever fielded. Over the next 6 days, these men will convince the German Ninth Army to aim every gun at an army of rubber and canvas, while the real assault force crosses the Rhine 13 kilometers north. The opening waves suffer only a few dozen casualties. Planners had feared hundreds, maybe thousands. The Ghost Army sits under genuine shellfire, forbidden to shoot back, shielding an army made of nothing. By war's end, 3 of them are dead, around 30 wounded. Proof that even a fake army bleeds real blood. How did 1,000 artists deceive the Wehrmacht? And what happens when the enemy drops live ordnance on your inflatable tanks, with you still crouching in the foxhole beside them? Rewind 2.5 years, June 1943. A classified briefing room inside the Pentagon. American strategists pore over intelligence from North Africa. The British have just executed something remarkable at El Magne. Hundreds of dummy tanks, plywood frames stretched with canvas, positioned in the south. Rommel swallowed the deception whole. The real force struck from the north. Victory. Now the Americans want their own version, bigger, more sophisticated. Not merely visual decoys, a complete sensory hallucination. Sight, sound, electronic signature, all synchronized into one seamless lie. No military in history has tried anything like it. The reasoning is brutal arithmetic. After Normandy, the front line will stretch hundreds of kilometers. There are not enough real soldiers to cover every gap. Each undefended sector is an invitation, a place where a German counterattack becomes a slaughter. But 1,100 specialists impersonating 40,000 troops free those real soldiers to fight elsewhere. And German intelligence has a vulnerability. Their analysts trust 3 sources above all others: aerial photographs, radio intercepts, and agent reports. Every single one can be fabricated. January 1944. The 23rd Headquarters Special Troops activates at Camp Forest, Tennessee. 1,100 men. Most have never squeezed the trigger. They were not recruited to kill. They were recruited to perform. The challenge: finding 1,100 people reckless enough to perform on a live battlefield. Recruiters fan out to art schools. Pratt Institute in Brooklyn, Cooper Union in Manhattan, the Rhode Island School of Design. They hunt for painters, sculptors, sound technicians, radio operators. Arthur Shilstone is 20 years old, tall, thin, a sophomore at Pratt studying illustration. He draws on everything: napkins, envelopes, his own forearms when paper runs out. A recruiter poses one question: underscore underscore, quote, underscore 0 underscore underscore. Arthur thinks about trompe-l'oeil paintings, flat surfaces that trick the human eye into perceiving depth. That is what illustration is, he answers. He enlists the following day. At Camp Forest, he meets his unit. Bill Blass, future fashion legend, currently peeling potatoes. Ellsworth Kelly, future icon of the Museum of Modern Art, currently learning to inflate a rubber tank in under 20 minutes.
Arthur Singer, destined to become one of America's most celebrated wildlife illustrators. Architects, set designers, a radio DJ from Chicago, a unit built entirely from creative minds, not one combat veteran among them. Their commander, Colonel Harry Reeder, delivers no comforting speeches. Silence swallows the room. Arthur scans the faces around him. Fashion designers, painters, kids fresh out of art school. This is the force meant to deceive the Wehrmacht. Their first test is approaching, and nobody's smiling anymore. 3 tools of deception, 3 senses to manipulate. First, sight. The rubber inflatables. Each tank weighs 42 kilograms. 4 men pump one full in 20 minutes. Up close, they look ridiculous. Balloon animals. Some men laughed the first time they saw them. Parade floats, they said. But from a reconnaissance plane at 3,000 feet, captured on a grainy black and white photograph, indistinguishable from a 33-ton Sherman. Arthur obsesses over the details that preserve or destroy the illusion. Real tank treads tear through mud in a specific pattern, so his team stamps matching grooves with wooden rollers. Crews hang laundry between actual vehicles, so they string clotheslines between decoys. Running engines melt snow around them, so they pour warm water at the base of each inflatable. A real camp is filthy, Arthur explains to a new recruit. Cigarette butts, oil stains, boot prints wandering in random directions. Too clean, and an analyst circles it on his desk. So they litter their fakes on purpose, artfully careless. Second, sound. Engineers bolt 250-kilogram speakers onto half-tracks. They pump pre-recorded audio into the countryside. Tank engines, bridge construction, columns of marching boots. Audible from 24 kilometers, blended in real time, like a sound engineer riding the faders. If the volume misses by 10%, a German analyst catches it. If he catches it, he digs deeper. If he digs deeper, the crossing force pedals straight into a curtain of artillery. Third, radio. Every military unit carries a unique communication fingerprint, call signs, slang, transmission rhythms. The 23rd's operators shadow real units for weeks, then replicate them down to the keystroke. One incorrect call sign, one phrase that doesn't match the 30th Division's habits, that's enough for a German radio analyst to tag the signal as counterfeit. 3 layers of fabrication, 1 synchronized performance. The men start calling themselves the Ghost Army, a name that won't surface in any official record for 50 years. Their early operations across France and Belgium go smoothly. Small diversions. Inflate a handful of tanks, broadcast engine noise, watch the Germans shift forces. It almost feels like a game. Until Luxembourg. September 1944. Badenburg, Luxembourg. The 23rd deploys near the front for a genuine high-stakes operation. They position inflatable artillery pieces across an open field, mimicking a full regiment. The rubber cannons aim east, straight at German lines. Camouflage netting drapes with studied carelessness over hollow barrels. Arthur places each decoy himself, checks the sightlines, studies how the light falls. Walks 50 meters back and narrows his eyes at the silhouettes. Quote 3. Quote. He tells a sergeant rushing to finish. Quote 4. Quote. The sergeant waves him off. Arthur jabs a finger at the sky. German reconnaissance spots the battery. Reports climb the chain. A formation of 150mm howitzers swings to engage. At 14:22, the first shells land. Sound changes when you cannot shoot back.
Every incoming whistle narrows to something personal. Every detonation asks a question. This one? The next? Arthur drives himself flat into the dirt. Mud fills his ears. The ground bugs beneath his chest. A direct hit on a bunker 60 meters away. The blast wave erases everything inside in 1 second. When the dust clears,
2 men from the 23rd are dead. Several more wounded. Their names will never make a single headline. But inside the unit, every man knows exactly who paid for the trick.
Arthur sees what's left. His hand moves toward his sketchbook, illustrator's instinct, then freezes. His fingers tremble. The inflatables are torn apart. Shredded fabric snaps in the wind like strange flags. But command declares the operation a success. The Germans spent heavy ordnance on rubber. Real units nearby, untouched. Success measured in someone else's survival. That night, Arthur sits alone in a foxhole, sketchbook balanced on his knees. He draws a small cross in a Luxembourg field. 2 names beneath it. The game is finished. This is real. The rubber cost actual lives. He closes the sketchbook. Somewhere out there, German analysts mark the destroyed artillery as neutralized. They have no clue, they just burned irreplaceable shells on nothing but air.
And the biggest operation is still 6 months away, the one that will test whether art can stop an army.
March 1945, Western Front. The Allies have pushed to the Rhine, the last natural barrier before Germany's heart. Operation Plunder, a massive crossing, multiple divisions, thousands of boats, the final push. But the Germans know it's coming. Every crossing point is fortified. Artillery lines the eastern bank. Fortified positions guard every approach. Command needs a diversion, something large enough to drag German reserves away from the actual crossing site. The 23rd gets the call. Colonel Harry Reeder gathers his officers in a farmhouse basement. The order: simulate 2 complete infantry divisions, the 30th and the 79th, staging a Rhine crossing near the town of Versoyen. Over 40,000 phantom soldiers, an entire army conjured from rubber, speakers, and radio waves. Duration: 6 days, March 18th through March 24th.
The real crossing will happen 13 kilometers to the north on March 24th.
Every German eye must be fixed on Versoyen when the actual boats launch. Reader's briefing is blunt. This is the largest deception this unit has ever attempted. If it fails, the crossing force absorbs the full weight of the German 9th Army. Thousands won't make it home.
He pauses. We have 1,100 men pretending to be 40,000 for 6 days, and we are operating on the banks of the Rhine within direct observation range of German spotters across the water.
Arthur raises his hand. Sir, the terrain is flat. If they fly low, they'll spot the seams on the rubber. Reader doesn't blink. Quote 10_. Arthur understands. If he fails, someone else dies. March 18th, 1945. Day 1. Versoyen sector. Nightfall. They work through darkness. Trucks roll in with headlights killed, holding deflated tanks stacked like giant green pancakes. Teams of 4 wrestle each one off the flatbed, connect air compressors, watch rubber swell into shape. By dawn, 200 inflatables dot the fields around Versoyen. Proper shadows. Tire tracks stamped into mud with wooden rollers. But tanks alone won't sell it.
They raise inflatable artillery pieces, construct fake command posts from plywood, assemble field kitchens that churn out real smoke, hang clotheslines with actual laundry, because empty lines look suspicious from 3,000 feet. They pour oil stains beneath the rubber tanks.
Arthur hasn't slept in 36 hours. His hands tremble from cold and caffeine. Every misaligned shadow is a detail some German photo analyst will catch. Quote 11. He tells reader during inspection. Reader stares at him. Quote 12. At dawn, a reconnaissance plane appears on the horizon. Arthur freezes. If that pilot dips below 2,000 feet, the seams on the turrets become visible. The plane circles once, twice, then banks east. Arthur exhales. Meanwhile, sound trucks crawl into position 800 meters from German lines. Engine noise, bridge construction, hammering, splashing, cranes groaning under load. On the far bank, German listening posts snap alert. __, quote _13__. The radio operators complete the illusion. Every frequency floods with transmissions, supply requests, medical coordination.
Unit movements. Each operator has studied the real 30th and 79th divisions for weeks. The broadcasts are indistinguishable from genuine traffic. 13 kilometers to the north, the real divisions prepare to cross the Rhine. None of them know their survival depends on 1,000 artists they've never met. March 19th, Day 2. Now come the actors. Soldiers of the 23rd stitch patches onto their uniforms. The 30th Division's Old Hickory insignia, the 79th's Cross of Lorraine. They paint unit markings on real trucks, the only real vehicles in the entire operation, and drive them through villages near Versoyen. Slowly, visibly. The same trucks loop through different routes, swapping markings each pass. An illusion of endless convoys. In a village cafe, a sergeant wearing a 30th Division patch orders beer and talks too loudly about the upcoming big push across the river. Drops specific grid coordinates. Mentions a real general by name. He knows the woman behind the counter might pass information to German intelligence.
That's the entire point. Every careless syllable is rehearsed. Every detail is stagecraft. German intelligence swallows every crumb. Reports cascade upward to Army Group H. American 30th Division confirmed in the Versoyen sector. 79th Division arriving in waves. Build-up consistent with a major river crossing. On the east bank, German commanders weigh the evidence. Aerial photographs showing hundreds of tanks, radio intercepts, supply movements, listening posts catching construction noise every night. Local agents confirming troop presence. Every instrument delivers the same verdict. The Americans are crossing at Versoyen. A German general leans over his map table, finger pressed to Versoyen. He gives the order. Quote 14_____. At that exact moment, Arthur Shilstone kneels in mud beside an inflatable Sherman, tugging a camouflage net to conceal a rubber seam. At the precise angle a morning reconnaissance flight would capture. The general sees an armored division. Arthur sees rubber and glue. Both believe they're winning, but the performance must hold for 5 more days. On day 3, the weather turns hostile. March 20th, 4:47 a.m. Arthur jolts awake to shouting. A storm has swept in overnight. Wind gusts of 60 kilometers per hour rake the flat ground near the Rhine. He staggers outside and sees it. A Sherman tank. 42 kilograms of rubber and air, tumbling across a field like a massive green balloon. It bounces over a hedgerow and lands upside down, turret aimed at the sky. 2 more tanks tilt sideways, their skins rippling in the gale. If a German plane passes overhead now, they'll spot tanks behaving like beach balls. The entire operation dies. 1 reconnaissance pass, 1 photograph of a tank acting like a balloon. 6 days of deception. Finished. Colonel Harry Reeder's voice rips through the field radio. I don't care that the glue won't dry in the rain. If those tanks aren't standing in 20 minutes, you're all done. Arthur grabs a team. They sprint through curtains of rain, wrestling rubber tanks upright. Each one demands 4 men to wrangle, and the wind fights them on every step. Stake them down, Arthur shouts above the gale. Double anchor, tether lines through the base grommets. They drive metal stakes through the rubber bases, pinning inflatables to the earth. Pound sandbags along the edges. Rig camouflage nets as improvised windbreaks.
Arthur inspects the tank he's just secured. The rubber strains against its stakes. A seam near the turret ring is pulling apart. He digs adhesive from his pack, applies it with numb fingers. Rain washes the glue away instantly. It won't hold. Arthur strips off his jacket, wraps it tight around the seam, lashes it with wire. Good enough until the glue cures. 1 hour. And if a plane comes in that hour, Arthur thinks, then we pray for clouds. The clouds hold. By dawn, the field looks ordinary again. Tanks in formation, tracks pressed into mud, smoke curling from field kitchens. The illusion survives, barely. Across the river, German observation posts report no change. The American buildup at Versoyen proceeds as expected, but the storm is nothing compared to what the Germans are about to deliver. Not wind, steel. March 22nd, Day 5, Night. Arthur crouches in his foxhole, sketching by the glow of a distant flare when the first shell arrives. No warning, a shriek that splits the air. Then a concussion that hammers his body into the earth. Dirt and stones cascade down. Then another, and another. The Germans have unleashed a full artillery barrage on Versoyen. They're striking the armored concentration their intelligence has tracked for 4 days. This means they believe it. But belief cuts both ways. If they discover the truth now, the real crossing becomes a slaughter. They're targeting rubber, but the shells are steel. 155mm high-explosive rounds gouge craters into the field. Shrapnel screams through the air. The ground heaves. Arthur flattens himself. The noise transcends noise. A physical force that shoves thought from his skull. An inflatable Sherman absorbs a direct hit. The blast rips through rubber like tissue. Green fragments corkscrew upward, caught in the shockwave, then drift down like confetti. A round strikes near a sound truck. Speakers topple. The recording skips, loops, dies. A soldier drags himself to the truck under fire.